Every street has a window glowing. Every face has a story untold. There's a lane where the lanterns are waiting, where the lost ones come home. Luminos lane where the light never fades. Every question, every quiet ache finds a table, finds a friend, finds a name. You are seen here, you are not the same. Come and find your way to Luminos Lane.
Somewhere in this city right now, someone is asking a question. Not out loud. They wouldn't say it out loud. But somewhere underneath all the noise, underneath the schedule and the notifications and the face they put on every morning, the question is there. Quietly, persistently, like something knocking on a door from the inside. Who am I? This is the story of a boy named Kai, and the street he almost walked past, and the question he could never quite shake. But if you have ever asked that question yourself, even once, even quietly, then this story is also yours. Caelum City never really sleeps. By 6 in the morning, it is already fully awake. Loud, relentless, indifferent to whoever is standing in the middle of it. Kai Mori has lived here for 4 months. 4 months since his mother packed their lives into 2 suitcases and they took the train to a city where nobody knew their name. 4 months since his father stopped being a presence in their home and became instead a silence no one talked about. He draws the same character almost every day. A boy on a cliff, not falling, just standing there, looking at everything below, as if trying to figure out where in all of it he belongs. Kai doesn't call it what it is. He just calls it practice.
My art teacher says I have a unique style. My mom says I'm talented. My old friends back home said I was funny. But take all that away. Take away every opinion, every label, every single thing anyone has ever said about me. Strip it all back. And what's left? I have no idea.
He almost kept walking. That is the thing about places that matter. They rarely announce themselves. They just sit there, quietly being what they are, waiting for whoever needs them to find them. What stopped Kai was the smell. Something warm and unhurried rising from the open door of a small noodle café halfway down a side street he had never noticed before. The sign above the door read, "Song's Table." Below it, in smaller, slightly crooked letters, "All are welcome, especially the ones who are lost."
You look like someone who has a very good question.
Kai blinked. Of all the things a stranger had said to him when he walked through a door, that was a new one.
I look like someone who missed the 47 bus.
The old man smiled. It was the smile of someone who had heard that kind of deflection before and was entirely untroubled by it.
Sit down. I'll make you something warm. Missing buses is sometimes the best thing that happens to a person.
Kai sat. He wasn't entirely sure why. He was not in the habit of sitting down in cafes owned by strangers who spoke as if they knew things about him. Mr. Song set a bowl of noodles on the counter in front of him. He hadn't asked what Kai wanted. He hadn't handed him a menu. He just set the bowl down. And it was somehow exactly what Kai would have ordered. Kai ate. The city outside continued its noise. In here, time moved at a different speed. There is a particular kind of silence that is not empty. The silence in Song's table was not empty. It was the kind of quiet that made things easier to say. Kai had not spoken about what was actually in his head to anyone in 4 months. Not to his mother, who was holding too much of her own weight. Not to his new classmates, who were strangers. Not even to himself properly. Because there were no words for it yet that didn't sound dramatic or strange. But in this particular silence, the words came out.
Do you ever feel like you don't actually know who you are? Like properly know?
Mr. Song went still. Not the stillness of someone caught off guard, the opposite. The stillness of someone who recognizes something precious when it arrives.
Every person who has ever sat at this counter has asked me that question, just in different words.
What do you tell them?
I tell them the answer is not inside them.
He set down the cloth he had been holding and looked at Kai directly.
It's not in their achievements, not in their personality, not in what other people think of them, not even in how they feel about themselves on a good day. The answer is in the one who made them.
A long pause. Kai looked down at his sketchbook, at the boy on the cliff, at the empty space behind him.
I'm not really a religious person.
The old man's expression did not change. He did not push. He did not explain. He simply said,
Neither was I, for a very long time.
He walked back toward the kitchen, and then, without turning around, he said one more thing.
Finish your tea, and don't fight whatever is about to happen. Some questions, when they're finally asked out loud, have a way of opening doors you didn't know were there.
And then something happened that Kai could not have described accurately to anyone who wasn't there. The question he had carried for so long, quietly, privately, in the back of every ordinary day, was answered. Not by Mr. Song, not by a book, not by anything with a name he could point to, by a voice. Warm, unhurried. The way a father's voice sounds when you are very young and frightened in the dark, and he comes into the room and sits down next to you and speaks quietly until the dark is no longer frightening. Like that. Exactly like that.
Thou art not an accident. Thou art not the product of chance or blind forces, or a universe that does not know thy name. When thou lookest in a mirror and askest, Who is this? Thou art looking at my image. My breath is in thee. My likeness is upon thee. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Genesis 1:27, KJV.
Kai did not move. He barely breathed.
I did not merely make thee as a craftsman maketh a vessel, shaping from a distance, uninvested in the result. I breathed into thee. My breath is thy life, not a metaphor, not poetry. Every morning thou awakest, it is my breath that sustains thee. Thou art dust touched by the divine, humble in origin, glorious in calling. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Genesis 2:7, KJV.
Outside the cafe, the city was still moving. Thousands of lives, thousands of faces, thousands of quiet questions. But in here, in this strange and beautiful space between waking and something else, there was only the voice, and the boy listening to it.
Thou wonderest if anyone truly knows thee, if anyone saw thee before the face went on, before the labels were attached, before the world began deciding what thou wert. I knew thee before thy mother knew thee, before thy name was given, before thy first breath, before thy first thought, before the first morning of thy life. I knew thee, not as a general idea, not as one of many, thee, specifically, completely, by name. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee. Jeremiah 1:5, KJV.
And here was the thing that Kai could not quite hold in one thought, the thing that was too large and too tender at the same time.
Thou art made of dust. This is true, and it is not a humiliation. It is simply what thou art at thy most basic, finite, mortal, temporary in this form. And yet, hear me carefully, thou art also crowned with glory. I am mindful of thee. I visit thee, not because thou hast earned it, not because thou hast performed well enough or figured thyself out, simply because thou art mine, and I am thine. What is man that thou art mindful of him, and the Son of Man that thou visitest him? For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Psalm 8:4-5, KJV.
Kai's pencil moved without him deciding to move it.
Thou hast been told, in 1,000 ways through 1,000 voices, that love is conditional, that thou must earn it, maintain it, perform well enough to keep it, that if the performance slips, the love slips with it. I tell thee plainly, that is not my love. My love hath no beginning, which means it was never earned. It hath no end, which means it cannot be lost. It is not a reward for achievement. It is the ground beneath thy feet. It was there before thou arrived. It will be there when everything else hath faded. I have loved thee with an everlasting love. Therefore with loving kindness have I drawn thee. Jeremiah 31:3, KJV.
The blue deepened, if such a thing were possible. The golden light of the words on the air grew softer, not dimmer, but softer. The way a flame goes from bright to warm.
There is a last thing I need thee to hear. Perhaps the most important thing. Thou art not forgotten. Not by distance, not by silence, not by the noise of this city, or the weight of this year, or the door thy father closed when he left. None of those things removed thee from my sight. None of them ever could. I have written thee upon my hands. Not a note, not a reminder. Engraved, permanent, the kind of writing that cannot be erased. See, I have graven thee upon the palms of my hands. Isaiah 49:16, KJV. So when thou askest, who am I? Hear my answer clearly. Thou art my creation, formed with intention and purpose. Thou art my image-bearer, carrying my likeness in thy very nature. Thou art known by me, intimately and completely, from before thy birth. Thou art loved by me with a love that hath no beginning and no end. Thou art written on my hands, and I will not forget thee. That is who thou art. That has always been who thou art, even when thou didst not know it.
How long was I out?
He did not turn around.
Not long, but long enough.
Kai looked around. The cafe was the same. The city outside was the same. He was the same. Same rumpled jacket, same ink on his fingers, same sketchbook on the counter in front of him. And yet, he looked down at the sketchbook. He didn't remember drawing it. His hand had moved without him. And now there it was, the one thing missing from every version of this drawing he had ever made. Someone standing behind the boy, not fixing the cliff, not removing the height, just present, there, refusing to be absent.
I still don't know who I am. Not completely. Maybe I won't for a while. Maybe that's okay. But for the first time in a very long time, not knowing doesn't feel like falling. It feels like the beginning of something.
He walked out onto Luminos Lane and turned toward home. The city was still loud. The questions were still there. The situation at home was still the same situation. None of the facts of his life had changed in the last 2 hours. But something had, something interior, something quiet. Like a room he had never been able to find the light switch for had, for a moment, been gently illuminated. And in that moment, he had seen that it was not an empty room at all. He stopped, looked at it, looked away, kept walking. Some questions, when you finally asked them out loud, opened doors you didn't know were there. That light had been burning for a long time. It would be burning still.